Okay, so there's a story coming out today, Sunday, March 6th. It says more than 4,300 detained at anti war protests in Russia. So it says police detained more than 4,300 people on Sunday at Russia wide protests against President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, according to an independent protest monitoring group. Thousands of protesters chanted "No to war" and "Shame on you," according to videos posted on social media by opposition activists and bloggers. Dozens of protesters in the Ural city of Yekaterinburg were shown being detained. One protester there was shown being beaten on the ground by police in riot gear. A mural in the city showing President Vladimir Putin was defaced. Says Reuters was unable to independently verify the footage and photographs on social media. Russia's Interior Ministry said earlier that police had detained around 3,500 people, including 1,700 in Moscow, 750 in St. Petersburg, and 1061 in other cities. The Interior Ministry said 5,200 people have taken part in protests. The OVD Info protest monitoring group said it had documented the detention of at least 4,366 people in 56 different cities. The screws are being fully tightened. Essentially, we are witnessing military censorship, Maria Kuznetsova, OVD Info spokeswoman, said by telephone from Tbilisi. We are seeing rather big protests today, even in Siberian cities where we only rarely saw such number of arrests. It draws some direction to the Navalny situation. If you guys don't know, I mean, there were a lot of protests going on even with that. And so Russia really recently has been a place where there's a lot of protests pretty consistently against President Vladimir Putin. It would be way more if obviously you weren't under threat of literally being imprisoned, arrested and imprisoned. But there have been constant protests. And with the Navalny situation, like there was a lot of dissent going on from a good portion of Russians. And it seems like to me, the dissent mostly comes from young people. Now, I think there were some old people at these protests, but I remember seeing some of the videos of the earlier protests like a week ago or something like that in Russia. And you could just see that like almost everybody, I think one video I saw, everybody was young, a young person. And so it's likely a combination of older people are probably more accepting, almost guaranteed to be more accepting of the Vladimir Putin regime, much more susceptible to propaganda because they probably only look at TV, whereas you have free access to information on social media for young people, and young people obviously want change, generally speaking. And so you can see that also young people are going to be more statistically probable to protest because they don't have as much to lose as an old person, right? Old people got money and power, so they're scared to lose that. And so that's the kind of thing that you can see. So to me, generally speaking, it seems like young Ruskies do not support President Putin. But I also saw a statement, I think, on this article where it says that Putin's approval rating has gone up 7%. But that's according to this Russian state polling. And so I need to check out some other polling. I don't know if Gallup or somebody does it in Russia as well. There's got to be some more independent Russian polling. But obviously, like a state Russian polling, arm is going to come out saying that his approval rating has risen, because otherwise them saying that his approval rating has gone down would be, a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. It would lower your approval ratings even more because it would look much worse. But these protesters obviously have significant balls, because it's so risky to protest in Russia. And it goes to show you, the kind of, freedoms you have in the United States compared to Russia. In countries like Russia and China, you can't really talk bad about the leader. You can't protest, without being imprisoned or the severe threat of being imprisoned. And so these people are just really, really brave in what they're actually doing. And so you're going to see more and more of these protests, I believe personally, because with what you're seeing with all these sanctions, Russia is going to be making a great regression. And that regression is going to be back towards kind of like I don't know, like a 20th century time, or like maybe even not 19th century, it's too far back, but you get what I'm saying. Russia is a very modern country. You get McDonald's, and while you're eating McDonald's, you scroll through Reddit on your iPhone that you just bought, while you're drinking your Starbucks. You know what I mean? Like that's Russia, right? At least for the bigger areas. Obviously, in the village, that's not what's going to happen. But you're not really going to see that in village life in the U.S. either, in rural areas. But anyways, with all these sanctions, with Swift being disconnected, not being able to use Apple Pay, not being able to buy Apple products, Microsoft products, and the ruble tanking into complete smithereens, like just straight like mierda, like dude, there is no way that Russians are going to be okay with this, and they're going to get really pissed. They're losing so much value in foreign currency, so they're going to start to protest even more, I think. And so, could you start to see like a Vietnam-esque situation? I don't know. Well, it'll be yet to be seen. But these sanctions are not just impacting the oligarchs now; they're also heavily impacting the regular people of Russia, especially with these countries pulling out and saying we're ceasing sales of our products in the country. They're going to be very angry. And so, could you see a Vietnam-esque situation here? I'm not really sure. Where there's tons of protesters at home that really bring down the morale and that kind of thing. I don't know. It's yet to be seen. But these protesters are obviously extremely, extremely brave because they're facing such a huge threat. But again, just so you guys know, even before this happened, like a year ago, there were a lot of protests going on related to, Alexei Navalny going on, a lot of dissent against Putin. So this is a kind of there's kind of like a natural level of this, right, going on, or a consistent level of dissent and protest going on in Russia. And so the question is, can it rise much above that normal amount that was going on before? That's really the question. And I don't know the numbers of how many people were protesting. I'm sure there weren't as many people detained, but that I think ultimately comes down to what the question is. But these are some very, very brave protesters.